Priscilla and Mano, you guys still there? You guys ready?
Sorry?
No, I'm talking to the students. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
Go ahead.
Sure. Priscilla and Mano. Yeah, all right. So today's session is comparing quantities, and we're starting with something called ratio, proportion, and variation, and we're going to look at what their applications are, etc., etc. Now, Priscilla, Unmana, what do you think ratio is? Can you tell me what ratios are? Speak how much ever you want in today's session. Make the most out of it.
So I think ratio is comparing two quantities.
Okay, good. And Unmana, Priscilla, can you tell me what you think ratios are?
So like if there are two things and we take the quantity of two of them and when we write next to next.
Okay. And can you guys tell me the difference between ratio and fraction?
Sir, ratio is not one object, it is two or more objects. But and then a fraction is just a part of one object.
Okay. Chalo, let's see what we have. Ratio, he says, is used to compare the size of two things with the same unit. And he says that if A and B are two quantities in the same units is very important. Can you compare 2 kgs and 2 meters? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Can you compare 2 kgs with 2 meters? What kind of a relationship will you draw? Can I say Unmana travels 2 kilometers and Priscilla travels 2 kilograms? Does that make any sense? Priscilla, you said yes. Does that make any sense? Can I compare kgs with kilometers, grams with meters?
No,
right.
Sir.
That's the reason the word same unit is very important over here. So how do we write ratios here? I write A is to B. What is he telling me? If I write A is to B, that is nothing else but A by B. Over here, whatever comes in the numerator is called the antecedent, and whatever comes in the denominator is called the consequent. But now, let me get back to what I was trying to tell you. Let's first understand what ratios are. If I say that in a school, alright, the ratio of boys is to girls is 2 is to 3. Now what does this mean? Unmana, what do you think this statement means? In a school, the ratio of boys to girls is 2 is to 3. What does it mean?
It means that in a school, so they are comparing it that like suppose the ratio like if there are 200 boys, then it will be like 300 girls. So like they are comparing it that the number of boys are lesser than the girls.
Very good. Priscilla, do you have something to add to what Unmana has said or something different?
Session today at 7 o'clock. It was a rescheduled session. We have sent the communication also.
Priscilla, please unmute yourself again.
So yes. Like if we take 2 boys, for every 2 boys we should take 3 girls.
Beautiful, perfect. So ratio, both of you are right. Ratio simply means if I say 2 is to 3, for every 2 boys there will be 3 girls. That means if I have a total of 5 students, I will have 2 boys and I will have 3 girls. That is what he's saying. But now, does the ratio mean exactly that number? Does that mean there are only 5 students? Yes or no? Does that mean that there are only 5 students? That's my question.
No, sir. The simplest, like if we take the both, the simplest fraction, it should be 2 and 3.
Don't use fraction. I will come to it. I will explain the difference. Beautiful, good answer. But then that's what he's trying to say. How many ever students there might be, the ratio will not change. The number might change, but the ratio will not change. Now, let's understand the difference between ratio and fraction. Guys, listen very carefully. Now, say I have a pizza, alright, and I have 4 slices. I take one out and eat. What part of the pizza have I eaten? 1/4? You guys agree with me? Now, I say, guys, I have 4 pizzas now. Okay? I have 4 pizzas. Now, out of these 4 pizzas, I eat this entire pizza. I remove that entire pizza and take it out. I now say that the ratio is 1:4. What does this mean? Fraction is a part of a whole. Ratio means for every 4 pizzas, I am eating 1 pizza. That is the difference. Even though both of them are numerically the same, the logic or the concept of ratio and fraction is entirely different. Ratio is for every 4 pizzas, Rajat eats 1 or Unmana or Priscilla eats 1. But when I'm talking about one entire pizza and I'm talking about a fraction, that means a part of that particular pizza only. Are we very clear with the difference between ratio and fraction? Did you guys ever come across this idea? Did you ever come across this concept? Did you ever know the difference between these two things? Okay, okay. Unmana says yes. All right. Now, the next slide says types of ratios. Now, majorly, guys, we have 4 types. One is compounded, the other is sub-duplicate. There's another called duplicate, then we have triplicate, and we have sub-triplicate. Can anyone of you tell me what these are? What do you think these are? Or have you come across these? Maybe, maybe not. Priscilla, Unmana? Can you tell me what these are? Duplicate, sub-duplicate, triplicate, sub-triplicate?
So I don't know. I never heard about this.
Okay, okay. What does duplicate mean? Can you tell me what duplicate and triplicate means? The normal English terminology.
Sir, I think duplicate means 2.
Okay. What is triplicate?
3.
Perfect. So what will be sub-duplicate?
Sir, it's like I'm thinking like if there are 2 ratios and then in that ratio the first unit has another ratio and the second unit has another ratio.
Okay, okay, okay. Chalo. First, let's see what duplicate is. When I say A is to B is a ratio and I say what is the duplicate of this ratio, it is simply the square of the ratio. So what does it become? A square is to B square. Clear? Now, if I talk about something called sub-duplicate ratio. Okay, if I say there's a ratio in the form of A is to B, what is the sub-duplicate ratio of this? It is nothing else but the square root of A is to the square root of B. Priscilla and Unmana, are you clear? I see Vatsala and Bhavya. I will give them an introduction in 2 minutes. Priscilla and Unmana, are you clear with duplicate and sub-duplicate?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So,
Bhavya and Vatsala, yes, Unmana?
So can you explain the sub-duplicate ratio?
Yeah, I'll explain. 1 second. I see 2 new students. Bhavya and Vatsala, can you unmute yourself?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Hi, Bhavya. Bhavya, so we start with ratios. For you and Vatsala, I'm going to do a quick recap. We just finished 2 slides, so you haven't lost much, all right? So pay attention. All right. If you have doubts, you can stay back after class. I will clear that. Don't worry.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Okay. So we were here. Okay, so Bhavya and Vatsala, look at this. Ratio is basically when we are comparing two things, we use the term ratio. But it is very important to understand that the comparison should be between the same units. That means 2 meters is to 3 meters, 4 boys is to 5 girls. You cannot compare 2 meters is to 5 kgs because the units are totally different. Point number one. What is ratio? Ratio is used to compare the size of two things as the slide suggests. Now I explained the difference between ratio and a fraction. In this picture, I took a pizza. All right, it has 4 slices. I ate 1 slice. That means I ate 1 part out of 4. This is fraction. To the right hand side, I took 4 pizzas. Out of the 4 pizzas, I removed or took an entire pizza. That means for every 4 pizzas, I take 1 entire pizza. This is also 1 by 4. Fraction and ratios have the same values, but the logic or the concept is entirely different. In both of them, I'm getting 1 by 4. But then in ratio means for every 4 pizzas, I'm eating 1. To give a better example, I said in a school, the ratio of boys to girls is 2:3. Now, does that mean that there are only 5 students? No. It means that for every 5 students that are there in the school, we have 2 boys and we have 3 girls. That means if we have, say, how many? If we have, say, 100 students. If we have 100 students, how many boys will we have? We will have 100 into 2 by 5. That is 40 boys. We will have 60 girls. What is the ratio? It is still 2:3. All right. That is what I explained. Moving on. This is just terminology where a ratio A is to B can be written as A by B, where A is called the antecedent and the denominator is called the consequent. What I then started explaining, Bhavya and Vatsala, is the concept of compound ratio, duplicate ratio, subduplicate ratio, triplicate ratio, and subtriplicate. Are you guys now following? Is everyone on the same page?
Yes, sir.
Quickly put in a yes. Quickly. I don't want any other lags now. Okay. So guys, duplicate ratio. Unmana, pay attention. For example, I take a ratio in the form of A to B and I say, what is the duplicate of this? Duplicate means 2. Duplicate ratio of A to B is nothing else but the square. Alright. So A square is to B square. We will also look at examples. First, let's understand the concept. Subduplicate is the opposite of duplicate. In duplicate, we were squaring. So in subduplicate, we will find the square root. That is the only difference. All right. So if I say,
what is the square root?
Pardon?
What is a square root?
You are not aware of what a square root is?
No, sir, they haven't taught us yet.
Okay. Priscilla, can you tell Bhavya what square and what square root is?
Sir, can you repeat what I'm supposed to tell?
Can you tell him what square means and what square root means?
Square is when you take the same number and multiply it to itself. And then root is if you take a particular number, you have to find the number which should be multiplied to itself.
Perfect. Let me give an example. All right, Bhavya, listen to this. If I say, what is the square of 4? As Priscilla rightly said, you multiply the number by itself. What is 4 into 4? 16. All right. Now, if I ask you, what is the square root of 16? That means which number, when multiplied by itself, is going to give me 16. So which number would it be? Wouldn't it be 4? Because 4 multiplied by itself is only giving me 16. For example, if I say what is the square root of 25? Which number when multiplied by itself is going to give me 25? Isn't it 5? 5 into 5. Are you now clear?
Yes,
there
sir.
are various ways of finding the square roots for larger numbers or XYZ. We will come to that. That's a topic for another day, but let's understand the concepts now. Is everyone now? Duplicate, subduplicate, clear. Now, Priscilla, what do you think? Sorry, not Priscilla. Unmana. Unmana, what do you think triplicate and subtriplicate would be? If I have to form an analogy, what do you think triplicate and subtriplicate would be? When I ask a question, please unmute as soon as possible, guys. Unmana, where are you? Unmana? Yeah. Can you tell us what triplicate and subtriplicate would be? All right.
So can I?
No, you've got it. I'll give you a chance. Bhavya, you've understood duplicate and subduplicate. Can you give a try so as to what triplicate and subtriplicate would be?
Sir, I think triplicate and subtriplicate means, I think so, like, if you say, for example, A is to B ratio, then it will be A cube ratio B cube.
Perfect. So it is not read as A cube ratio B cube. That's a way of saying it, but we simply say it as A is to B or A square is to B square, A cube is to B cube. All right. So now it is very simple. Duplicate was when we squared it. Triplicate, tri means 3. That means we are going to cube it. So what is the triplicate ratio of A is to B? It is nothing else but A cube is to B cube. So for example, if I say what is the triplicate ratio of 2 is to 3, it is 2 cube is to 3 cube. 2 cube is 2 into 2 into 2, 8. 3 cube is 3 into 3 into 3, that is 27. Perfect, deal. What is subtriplicate? Subtriplicate would be the cube root of the number. The triplicate is from A to B, subtriplicate is from B to A. So for example, if I tell you what is the subtriplicate ratio of 8 is to 27, that means what is the cube root of 8 and 27? What would it be? 2 is to 3. Is the logic clear? Is the idea clear?
Yes, sir.
Is everyone clear? Put in a yes, guys. Priscilla, Bhavya, Unmana, Vatsala, just the 4 of you. Alright, perfect. Okay. Now there's this concept called compound ratio. Now what does he say? He says we have ratios A is to B, we have C is to D, and we have E is to F. How do I write these ratios? A by B, C by D, E by F. In order to find the compound ratio. Alright, Unmana, but have you got the idea? Did you understand what triplicate, subtriplicate is? You'll speak on the next slide, don't worry. Alright, so what is compound ratio? He's given me 3 ratios, A by B, C by D, E by F. Now what happens if I directly multiply ACE divided by BDF? That is what compound ratios are. Are we clear with compound, duplicate, subduplicate, triplicate and subtriplicate? I hope everyone. Now look at this concept. What is this reciprocal ratio? Reciprocal, as we know, what does the name suggest? Unmana, what is the basic idea of the word reciprocal?
How can I?
No, Unmana. You spoke last time, Bhavya. I'll give everyone a chance. Don't worry, everyone's going to get a chance. Unmana.
Okay, sir.
I want you
So
to.
reciprocal means the opposite of the fraction. If it's 2 by 3, so the reciprocal it will be 3 by 2.
Correct. So what do we divide? What do we divide the number by to get a reciprocal? Which number do we use? For example, if I say how did the reciprocal of A is to B become 1 by A is to 1 by B? Simple. If I'm talking about A is to B, that means A by B. What would be the reciprocal? 1 by A by 1 by B. This is nothing else but 1 by A is to 1 by B. All of you agree? So now simply, if I put 1 by A by 1 by B, if I send this up, what happens? 1 by A into B by 1. All of you are aware of this. This is nothing else but B by A. Reciprocal is nothing else but reverse. A is to B became B is to A. This is the proof of it. Is this clear, guys?
Yes, sir.
Everyone?
Uh,
Alright. Chalo. We have 3 or 4 questions now. 30 seconds tops for every question. What's the reciprocal of 16 is to 25? Now, what is the duplicate ratio of 7 is to 3? Wait, Vatsala, if you cannot speak, type in the answer. What's the duplicate of 7 is to 3?
Sir, I have a doubt.
1 second. You tell me.
Sir, if they ask us the duplicate ratio of any number, for example, like 7 is to 3, then should we write the form or should we find out what the number is and should we tell that?
You have to find out what happens when you square the number.
Okay, sir.
Alright. Correct. So 1 by 16 by 1 by 25, 1 by 25 goes up, so it becomes 25 is to 16. Brilliant, Priscilla. Great. So Vatsala, what's the duplicate ratio of 7 is to 3? I don't want others answering, I just want Vatsala. Vatsala, are you awake or have you fallen asleep? Okay, he isn't replying. Bhavya, can you unmute yourself and tell us what the duplicate of 7 is to 3 is?
Huh?
What's the duplicate ratio of 7 is to 3?
I think it's
Nothing to think. Well, what did you do? Did you square it?
yes, sir.
So what is 7 into 7? What is 7?
49.
Right. And what is 3 square? What is 3 into 3?
9. So
So what does
49.
the duplicate become?
Sir,
So what's the answer? What does the duplicate become?
49 is to 9.
Perfect. What are you thinking about? What's so difficult about it?
Nothing, sir.
Next. What's the triplicate of 2 is to 5, Priscilla?
Sir, 8 is to 125.
Brilliant. Unmana, do you agree with her?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What is the subtriplicate of 27 is to 125 now? What is subtriplicate? It's the cube root, right? Unmana, what's the subtriplicate of 27 is to 125? Unmana, where are you? Are you solving?
So, wait a minute, I am solving.
Okay, okay. Priscilla isn't sure about her answer. She's put a question mark. Bhavya, do you know how to find the cube root of a number? Do you know how to find a square root? How to find a cube root?
Sir, I know how to find the square root, but not the cube root.
In square root, what is the idea? You take one number, you multiply it by the same number, right? So
Yes, sir.
I'm talking about square root. Let's look at the logic. There are multiple ways of finding that. Square root, alright. So let's talk about square. Square is, if I say what is the square of 2, you say 2 into 2, that is 4. If I say what is the cube of 2, you say 2 into 2 into 2, sorry, 2 into 2 into 2, 2 multiplied 3 times, that is 8. Now if I say what is the square root of 16, which number when multiplied by itself is going to give me 16? 4, 4 into 4. If I ask you what is the cube root of 8, which number when multiplied by itself, which number into the same number into the same number 3 times. What do you do for cube? 2 into 2 into 2.
So I'm so sorry. I'm extremely sorry. Like we have few technical difficulties, and that's why I joined so late.
Yeah, you missed out on a couple of concepts. So let's see if you can follow for now. All right. Even if you can't, you have the recording anyway. So you.
Yes, sir, I'll check the recording.
Right, cool. But try following from here. Yes, Bhavya. So which number into which number into which number is going to give me 8? What is the cube root of? Pardon?
2.
Exactly. That is the concept of square root and cube root. There are multiple ways. Pick whichever one. You have Vedic mathematics, you have certain logics, you have the long division method, etc., etc. So, Unmana, do you okay? Unmana says 3:5. Perfect. So, what is the cube root? Cube root 27. So, Bhavya, which number into the same number is giving us 27? 3 into 3 into 3. All right. For 25, what do I get? 5 into 5 into 5. So what is the right? So what is the subtriplicate of 27 is to 125? 3 is to 5. Simple. Clear?
Sir, I didn't understand with the example given in the question.
Pardon?
I didn't understand when you explained the question. I mean, like.
Okay. Look at this. Cube root of 8. What did I do?
2 into 2 into 2.
Why did I do it thrice? Because it said cube root.
Yes, sir.
Right. So when he said cube root of 125, which number when multiplied by itself thrice is going to give me 125? That is what you have to think.
Okay, sir.
Alright, so 5 into, look at a smaller number, 27. 27 is a relatively smaller number. 3 into 3 into 3. So what would become the cube root of 27? 3.
3.
Right. Now, Bhavya, what is the subduplicate of 36 is to 49? I don't want anyone, I just want Bhavya to answer. I want him to be very clear with this.
Sir, can you just give me 1 minute?
Yeah, take 1 minute. Arna, we have started with ratios. I told them what the basic idea of ratios is. I told them the difference between ratio and fraction. We discussed duplicate, subduplicate, triplicate and subtriplicate as well as compound ratio and certain problems. Yes, Bhavya?
Sir, can I tell the answer?
Yeah, tell me.
That 6 is to 7.
You got the idea now? You got the logic of square root and what cube root are, what square and cube is?
Yes, sir.
Right. Priscilla, Unmana, Vatsala, everyone agrees with Bhavya's answer of 6 is to 7? Right. Now, you guys remember the ratio, concept of compound ratio? Say if I have A by B and I have C by D. What did we do? We multiplied. We got AC by BD. So over here, what does he say? We have 4 is to 7 and we have 5 is to 9. So what this can be written as 4 by 7 and 5 by 9. What do I get? 20.
Sir, should we cross multiply?
63.
Sir, should we cross multiply?
Numerator with the numerator. Think logically, if I were to cross multiply, why would I have written 20 in the numerator? I should have written, right? You get the idea? So, numerator multiplied by the numerator, denominator multiplied by the denominator. That was the concept of ratios. So,